The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain Longman Simplified English Series read by ดวงหฤทัยพรหมมา Chapter 6 At 9:30 that night, Tom and Sis were sent to bed as usual. They said their prayers, and Sis was soon asleep. Tom lay awake and waited in restless impatience. The clock struck 11. Then there came Huck's signal, the meowing of a cat. A minute later, Tom was dead and out of the window. He caved a long roof of the bushes and then stamped to the ground. Huckleberry Finn was there, with his dead cat. The boys moved off and disappeared in the darkness. Half an hour later, they were stepping through the tall glass of the graveyard. It was on a hill, about a mile and a half from the village. A faint wind moaned through the trees, and Tom feared that it might be the spirits of death complaining about his disturbance of their rest. The boys talked in whispers for the time and the place. The solemnities and the silence had a dispiriting effect on them. They found a heap of nearly dark earth, which they were shaking and crept within the protection of three great trees that grew within a few feet of the grave. Then they waited the silence for what seemed a long time. The mournful cry of a distant bird was the only sound that troubled the dead stillness. "Huck, do you believe the dead people like us to be here?" said Tom in a whisper. "I wish I knew," whispered Huck. "It's awfully solemn, isn't it?" "It is." There was a long pause. "I say, Huck, do you think Horse Williams can hear us talking?" "Of course he can. At least his spirit can." Another long pause followed. "I wish I said Mr. Williams," breathed Tom, "but I never meant any harm. Everybody calls him Horse. You should be very careful how you talk about these dead people, Tom." This was discouraging, and conversation died again. Suddenly, Tom seized Huck's arm and exclaimed, "Shh! What is it, Tom?" The two boys held on to each other, their hearts beating fast. "Shh! There it is again. Didn't you hear it? Oh, Tom, they're coming. They're coming. What should we do?" "I don't know. Do you think they see us?" "Oh, Tom, they can see in the dark just like cats. I wish I hadn't come." The boys bent their heads together and scarcely breathed. Other sound voices floated up from the far end of the graveyard. "Look there!" whispered Tom. "What it is? It's devil fire! Oh, Tom, it is awful!" Some waved fingers upward through the gloom, swinging an old-fashioned lamp. "It's the devils, I'm sure. 3 of them. Tom, we'll never get away alive. Can you play?" "I'll try, but don't be afraid. They're not going to hurt us." "Shh! What if it's Huck? They're human beings. One of them is, I'm certain. That's old Potter's boy." "No, it isn't." "It is. I know it. Don't stare. He isn't sharp enough to notice us." "Drunk as usual, I expect." "All right, I'll keep still. Here they come again. I say, Huck, I know another of them. It's Redskin Joe." "That's so. The smoldering half-breed. I'd rather have devils. What do they want? The three men reached the grave and stood within a few feet of the boy's hiding place. "Here it is," said the third voice, and the owner of it held the lamp up and revealed the face of young Dr. Robinson. Potter and Redskin Joe had a handguard from which they took a blanket, a rope, and two spades. Then they began to open the grave. "Hurry, men," said the doctor in low voice. "The moon may come out at any moment." They made a distinct reply and went on digging. For some time there was no noise but the sound of the spades moving the earth. Finally, a spade struck in the coffin, and within another minute or two the men had littered it out. They broke off the list with their spades, got out the body, and dropped it lovely on the ground. The moon sailed out from behind the clouds and lit up the shocky face. The handguard was get ready, and the body was placed on it, covered with the blankets and bound in its place with the rope. Potter took out a knife, cut the ends of the rope, and then said, "Now, the cursed thing's ready, Sawbones, and you'll hand out another $5, or here it stays." "That's the way to talk," said Redskin Joe. "What does this mean?" asked the doctor. "You demand your play in Act 1, and I've paid you." "Yes, and you've done more than that," said Redskin Joe, approaching the doctor. "5 years ago, you drove me away from your father's kitchen one night when I came asked for a bit of bread, and you called me a scoundrel. When I swore that I'd make you suffer for that, even if it took me 100 years. Your father had me put in prison as a vagabond. Did you think that I, with native blood in me, would forget such treatment? And now I've got you, and you must pay for it." He was listening. The doctor with his fist in his face by this time. The doctor struck out suddenly and knocked the villain down. Potter dropped his knife and claimed, "Here, don't strike my partner." The next moment Potter and doctor were fighting fiercely. Redskin Joe sprang to his feet, his eyes flaming with fury, snatched up Potter's knife, and went screaming, cat-like, about the struggling man, seeking for an opportunity. Suddenly, the doctor threw himself free, seized the heavy handboard of William's grave, and struck Potter with it. At the same instant, the half-breed saw his chance and dropped the knife up to the handle in the young man's breast. He struggled and fell partly upon Potter, blinding him with his blood. At the same moment, the crowd covered up the dreadful spectacle, and the two terrified boys seized these opportunities to creep away in the darkness. When the moon came out again, Redskin Joe was standing over the two men, regarding them thoughtfully. The doctor murmured something, gave a long gasp or two, and was still. The half-breed muttered, "That account is gentle, curse you." Then he robbed the body. After doing so, he put the fatal knife in Potter's right hand and sat down on the broken coffin. 3, 4, 5 minutes passed, and then Potter began to stare and moan. his hand closed upon the knife. He raised it, glanced at it and let it fall with a shiver. Then he sat up, pushing the body from him, and gazed at it, and around him confusedly. His eyes met Redskin Joe's. "Good heavens! What's this, Joe?" he said. "It's a naughty business," replied Redskin Joe without moving. "What did you do it for?" I didn't do it." Porter trembled and went white. "I thought I wasn't drunk. I shouldn't have touched any drunk tonight. But it's in my head yet. I can't remember anything about it." "Tell me, Joe, truthfully now, old fellow, did I do it, Joe?" "Upon my soul and honor, I swear that I never meant to, Joe." "Tell me how it happened, Joe." "Oh, it's awful, and he was such a fine young doctor. Why, you two were struggling, and he hit you with the headboard and knocked you down. Then you got up, snatched the knife and stuck it into him, just as he hit you again, and you've been laying here till now." "Oh, I didn't know what I was doing. It was all account of the drinks and excitement, I'm sure. I never used a weapon in my life before, Joe." The poor creature dropped on his knees and held out his arms before the murderer. "Joe, don't tell. Say that you won't tell. Joe, that's a good fellow. I've always liked you, Joe, and defend you too. You won't tell, will you, Joe?" "No, you've always been good to me, Porter, and I'll keep my mouth shut." "Oh, Joe, you're an angel. I will bless you for this till my dying day." He began to cry. "Come, now, that's enough for that," said Redskin Joe. "You go that way, and I will go this. Move now, and don't leave any tracks behind you." Porter hurried away, and the half-breed stood looking after him. If he as much stunned with the blow, and as stupid with the drinks as he seemed to be, Redskin Joe muttered, "He won't think of knife till he gone, so far that he'll be afraid to come back for it, the clown."